to be good, and I'll just confirm that. And it always emails me that we're live. So what we usually do is, so it's a live show. There is a live chat with the possibility of sometimes people pop in there and ask some more questions. Then eventually I take the official beginning and official end. It's usually a little over an hour long, depending on guests, and that goes up as a podcast on our podcasty whatnot. And then eventually, when I finally get around to editing up a shorter version of it, it's kind of just our thoughts on the beers type thing, and that goes up as a YouTube video. And then I try to get an even smaller version of that down to the internet attention span of 20 seconds or less, and I throw that up as a funny thing. So that's the plan. But since we're all here and we're incredibly late, I'll give it the official starter if we're all good to go.
Yeah.
Good enough for me. I am Ross, joining me as my co-host Ian, and tonight's special guests Matt and Mike of the Afternoon Pint. And together, the three of them, and not myself, are attempting to drink Nova Scotia Dry. Long story, I'm not getting into it. But welcome, Matt and Mike, to our little pokey podcast of Drinking Us Dry, which... we started doing this 4 years ago, and it was just a live Facebook weekly event thing. And then after a while, I became curious to think, is there something else like this? And I went and I found there was a podcast called the 902 Brewcast, I think. Mm-hmm. And I got interested in that. I said, oh, this is really great. I'm so glad this is happening. And within 48 hours, they announced they were shutting down.
So it's your fault.
And I went, oops. And at the same token, I was thinking, oh, I wouldn't want to start a podcast if they're doing the same thing. If there's any kind of competition, I would hate to feel that way. And they shut down. And I said, well, okay, I guess that means that we should start. And it changed it didn't really change format. It just changed mediums, media, and level.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think this is week number. I don't have all my stuff in front of me. Week number 217-ish, but it's only podcast episode like 95 because we've done a bunch beforehand. But I think in the number of weeks that we've done it, we're very close to when Afternoon Pint started.
Yeah. So officially launched, it'll be the 30th or 31st. It'll be then. That's when we launched the actual first episode. We obviously recorded some before that, and we were working on that before that too. So I'd say we're about 2 years old now, kind of, sort of, depends when you take the timeline. Mike bought the gear about 2.5 years ago, and then we started coming up with concepts about 2 years ago, and then we launched. It'll be 2 years in July.
I feel like you're already 300% more prepared and capable than we are.
Yeah. We might appear that way, but it's not.
If we appear that way, thank you.
Yeah, it's a huge compliment. Thank you.
If I may, I've recently upgraded my equipment, Matt and Mike. I now have a little tripod I bought from Amazon for about $21 to upgrade the empty toilet roll holder that I used as my stand on my phone for the first, 3 years. So I've hauled myself into the 21st century just in time for the big boys to come along.
Good job.
That is the exact story I was going to tell.
And you, Ross, you have you have a makeup assistant, wardrobe and everything, don't you?
You're my makeup assistant. This is the shirt you gave me. This is my Hobgoblin shirt. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Let's see the shirt, man. I couldn't see the shirt. I'm sorry.
Oh, cool.
I like that. Cool. Yeah.
I got a Hobgoblin beer glass, and my son's really, really into Spider-Man right now, so he calls it my Green Goblin beer glass.
Oh.
Even though there is a Hobgoblin in Spider-Man too, but he's not at the Hobgoblin level yet. He's not too deep into the character. He's some of the still basics right now.
It's never too early.
That was my dad's. Bless him. My dad used to the shirt that Ross is wearing then was mine. It was a little bit too big for me, to be honest. But it came from every now and again they have these promotions whereby if you send off a whole batch of lids to the bottles. You can get yourself some memorabilia from the companies. That's from the Witchwood Brewery in Oxfordshire in the UK. And he saved up for them. And once a year at Christmas time, he would give me all his freebies, beer related. So I willfully took them off his hands. But that was a little big for me. And I thought, I know a fellow's a little more probably barrel chested than myself. And it seems to fit like a glove, does it not?
It's a little. My barrel is not quite as thick as it should be, I suppose, to wear this shirt, but I'm doing my best, that's for certain. Speaking of filling...
It sounds a lot like you had the beer equivalent of Pepsi points.
It does certainly feel that way, doesn't it?
That's generally how it goes. Yeah, for sure. That's exactly how it goes. The more you drink, the more memorabilia you can pick up.
So, sorry to interrupt. So, Matt, you're having a beer. What are you drinking? Can I let her crack one of these? I was waiting to be...
I was right there. The segue of filling your barrel, I had to be right there. So normally, I forgot to tell you the rules. Normally, what we do is we go from the lowest alcohol percentage up to the highest alcohol percentage. But honestly, Matt, if you're already into one, or are you drinking the Smashing right now?
I am. Yeah, I would normally start that exact same way. Start for lighter beer, lower alcohol, and work my way up to the, depending on what it is. Try to. Depending on the IPA, if it's a real hoppy IPA, I might drink that after the stout, or if it's not a crazy hoppy IPA, I might drink the stout first, depending. But yeah, they're kind of interchangeable, IPAs and stouts, depending on how you work your way up. But yeah, definitely the blonde. I wouldn't. After some of the beers we have here, you wouldn't taste the blonde. So yeah, I did the blonde first. So that's the Great Roads Smashing Blonde. I actually named this one, and it's actually AP. Official, kind of sponsored beer. So.
I apparently did not look close enough at the can. Tell me more. That's fantastic. Well, this is when you started. There was collaboration / partnership. I don't really know with Great Roads themselves, because when we talked to Rob Truscott down there, he was mentioning about using the space for some more different media activities, especially.
Yeah. So I mean, how we fell into Great Roads was Mike and I, when we first started, we had a relationship with actually Serpent Brewing, and we knew the owner and the brewmaster. We reached out and we were like, hey, we're thinking about doing this podcast. Here's our concept. So for anyone who's listening and doesn't know our show, our concept is kind of the idea of think of like the UK, like the 5 to 7 UK, kind of on your way home from work. You're going to stop by on the at a pub, have a pint with whoever, your mates and whatever. You might meet a stranger or whatever, and you just have a chat and a beer, and then you go on your way home. So Mike and I go after work, and we go to a pub, and we record our podcast. And it's kind of our 5 to 7 type of thing, right? And we just talk to interesting people. The idea is that we don't do video often. At least, we try to we do it if it's on Zoom, if the client's, the person's not there or whatever. But for the most part, we want to do audio because we want people to be able to kind of just listen, maybe pour a beer, and feel like you're sitting at the table next to us and listening to our conversation that we're having in the pub. So that's kind of the concept. So we pitched that to Serpent Brewing. They loved it, and we recorded there, like our first, I think 8 episodes maybe, Mike, there. I can't remember, but it was something like that, our first 2 months in. And then unfortunately Serpent closed. They went out of business, and we were kind of left scrambling to find a place, and we found a place nearby, which is Station 6, which is a restaurant nearby in Spryfield. They were great to let us record there. But then Rob reached out from Great Roads and said, hey, you're looking for a brewery. So we were like, yeah, let's give it a shot. We'll go out there. He said there's some things changing. I knew who Old Biddy's was, but he said some stuff was changing and everything. So but Mike and I work nearby. We're 5 minutes away from there. So, and then we Station 6 is kind of really close by on our way home. So these are 2 places that have been really great to us in order to letting us record. And one's on our way home and one's near our office. So it's been really great that way to record for both of them. So with the amount that we've been recording at Great Roads, they were putting up the blonde. They wanted to do a smash beer, which if anyone knows what that is, it's an acronym. So the single malt and single hop, and they had a name for it, and they listed it up there on Facebook, and I was kind of like, that name's all right, and I just kind of made a joke saying like, well, why don't you call it like Sackville's Smashing Good Blonde kind of thing, and like as a play on the beer and style and everything, and they actually loved it. So they actually changed the name that they were going to name it and changed it to Smashing Good Blonde. And when they printed the new cans up, they actually put our logo on it with a QR code that takes you to our website so you can listen to our episodes.
Oh man, that's fantastic. That's a good replace right time. I don't have the can on me. Ian, would you be so kind as to read me anything that's on there in so far as the description?
I will. What I'll do first, Ross, I don't know if you noticed, when I cracked that beer about 3 or 4 minutes ago, stuff went sideways and I had to go clear up. And it's still, I have never seen in all my years of drinking beer, and that's several, I have never seen a can so full of beer. Right, and the beer is still sitting. There's quite a layer of it in the top of the can. So I'm going to have to take a good old sip of this and then read it. Otherwise, I'm going to spill it all down my lovely purple sweater. So just bear with me a second, Ross.
That's a tragedy. The short answer is yes, we have seen a beer that full, and it is literally every time we open a Great Roads can. Rob, and I believe Rob definitely. He fills them to the brim. He prides himself on that. I know that.
Yeah, you get 110% beer there.
Your mom's working a dime.
Discuss later. Right, well, you don't have your beer with you, Ross. This is so exciting for me because this might be a first. I'm going to do your lines for you. Sackville's Smashing Good Blonde Ale. Matt has just explained the history of how it became to be named. Everyone has heard of the dirty blonde from Dartmouth. Ross has got I don't know, an affinity with the name of that. I think most people have got an opinion about the name of that, about that first particular beer. But did you know that Sackville has its own blonde too? This smash single malt and single hop beer is very light in taste, but the flavour comes from the German Heulmelon hops. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Melon? Yes, I think so. That give it a honeydew melon flavour and some oven. I'll put my glasses on. I think that says even. And even detect hints of apricot and strawberry. It's the ABV is 4.5. It comes in at 26 international bitter units. Are you tasting it? Is it particularly bittery? It's got
strawberry?
A slight, surprisingly slight dryness to it.
Yeah. I find it's a little bit more bitter than most blondes that you're going to get, which, that can be a good or a bad thing. Like, don't get me wrong. I know Dirty Blonde is a very popular, craft beer in Nova Scotia, and lots of people like it. It's a good way to introduce people to craft beer. This one here might be a little bit more friendly to the people who drink IPAs or see the bitter units a little bit on the higher side of things. So yeah, it's a little bit more of a bitter blonde, but I don't hate that idea. So yeah.
I'm intrigued. Maybe I'm really new at this, but fellas, the SRM is 3.0. I'm not familiar with that term or that abbreviation. Can anyone fill me in?
Signor Romeo Manducci.
Okay, so clearly you can't, Ross. You're not helping. Matt, the SR and the can. I mean, the ABV, as I say, is 4.5. The IBUs are 26, and right slap bang in the middle there. The SRM. I've never heard tell. Maybe Rob could help me out.
It's just a scientific. It's a scientific terminology for beer. I believe it's hold on if I can remember the acronym. It's I don't know. I can't remember. It's scientific reference method or standard reference method. It's one or the other.
Standard.
Standard. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just I'm googling it.
Yeah, so am I.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, you can do that too, I guess. Yeah.
No, we're not very smart around here, but we sure can Google search things live and on the fly. That's what we specialize in, if anything else.
So honestly,
Okay.
most like when I look at the can here, like most people aren't going to care about that. Really, like they're not going to care about that when you're drinking a beer. Most people are going to care about the alcohol percentage, and they're going to care about the IBUs a little bit more, just because they want to know if it's going to be too hoppy or too bitter for them.
A lower SRM indicates a lighter beer, while a higher SRM indicates a darker beer.
It
Yes.
seems to be a color
Cool,
spectrum and like some
Yeah.
sort of
It is a
standard
color
level
spectrum.
of yellow to black.
Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah.
Honeydew melon flavour, and even some detect hints of apricot and strawberry. I don't know. I think the jury's out with me on that one. Melon, I can. If I squint, maybe there is something there. I'm not getting a great deal of sweetness that strawberries would lean towards, or even apricot, to be honest. If they're there, they're very, very subtle, and I'm not getting it. What I will say is, it's quite refreshing, and I haven't had a beer for several days, so this is just what the doctor ordered. I've had wine, don't get me wrong, I haven't completely I'm completely abstained, but I haven't had a beer in a few nights, and this is lovely, it's very refreshing.
Now, I'm just reading this, related methods. European Brewery Convention, EBC, is a European method for measuring beer color, so you know.
Oh, so there's a European scale of colors from yellow to brown.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's the North American and the European. They have to have their own standards.
Where does a good red ale fall in this? I'll look that up later. It doesn't really matter to me. Well, tucking into the smash there, I will point out our caveat towards smashes is, I think out of all the beer types that we've tried, we're not a big fan of sours, and then our second.
With me, dude. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to try them because I asked. I said, are these technically beers? And they said, yeah, they're brewed in the correct way of beers. And I said, fine, we have to drink them, okay. And then someone said, oh, you're going to try ciders? And I said, no, ciders are different. We don't have to drink ciders. That's fine, even though I probably would prefer a cider to a sour. But it's the smash, the single malt, single hop, a smash IPA are often some of our least favorites that we do try.
You know,
well, funny enough, as we found out that the sours, even though we've not given over to them, Ross, and they have clearly gained in popularity massively in the last 5 or 10 years, but sours, as we came to learn, were some of the very oldest brews that they were brewed. I'm not talking about the Chinese and the Egyptians like 3,000 years ago, but when they were brewing them in Europe there several hundred years ago, the sours were one of the very first varieties. But they clearly went into a decline and made a massive comeback only 5 or 10 years ago. And I thought, what is this new, fairly horrible beer? Well, they're even calling it beer. I thought, this isn't a beer. And then, of course, doing a little bit of research, I was out of my depth because it turns out they're very traditional.
So, okay, so I'm going to defend sours because I like them. But, so here we go. There is a big difference, though, between a sour and like a lambic. Right? So a lambic is the champagne of sours. Literally, like that's how I equivalent. So like a lambic is the champagne of sours. A sour is your sparkling wine, right? And that's basically so I get it if someone doesn't like necessarily like a sour beer because they can be artificial, like say artificially, but like
what I mean artificial, yeah.
They can add things that just make it sour, right? Versus what you were saying there, Ian, is lambics are the traditional way of making things sour, which is letting the natural yeast in the air infect the beer, which is the natural way of doing things. The problem with lambics and why sours are so more popular in North America is lambics technically are an infection, and brewers worry that will infect the rest of their beers if they use the lambic yeast. And it becomes airborne, and it can infect the rest of the stuff. You need to be really thorough about cleaning. So you could have all of your beers end up being sour beers if you don't do that. You don't do the proper cleaning process. So
is this what turns into The Last of Us? The whole plot behind, and you
100%. Yes.
You brew a lambic, and then
exactly
everyone's got mushrooms in their mouths. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Really
I've got to
good.
say, I drank plenty of lambic, but as Russell know, I lived in Belgium for close to 3 years, so I
Awesome.
drank an awful lot of. Yeah, I mean the Chimay were clearly everywhere. The three different kinds, and I drank an awful lot of Chimay. Chimay Blue being my personal favourite, which you can still get, I think, from time to time in the liquor stores out here in Nova Scotia. But they weren't. But they certainly weren't fruity numbers. Now, an awful lot of sours here head straight to the fruit, and whether that's to your liking or not, fine.
And you can, yeah, you can get some of those. Like Belgium's, like I love Belgium. Been there twice. Bruges is one of my like favorite places in all of Europe. But they do the creeks, right? And they do add cherry and raspberry to those. But again, like it's more natural tasting, so I find they're way better, right? I like lambics, and I'm a champagne guy. Champagne's probably my favorite wine of all time. Kind of tastes like beer, so it's kind of why I like it.
You might be a bit like me when a blueberry ale comes around, usually once a season, and you taste it, and you can tell the difference between someone getting the concentrated blueberry off the shelf and someone actually going to the fields and mashing it in there. And you can drink it and say, "This, you picked this. Someone hand-picked these berries," and you can tell.
Night and day.
Yeah,
it's night and day. And honestly, like I don't like extracts in beers. I find it's just too sweet and just right. You get a beer where they actually like fermented that in with natural fruit. Man, it's really good, really good.
So, learning that Ian has spent some time in Belgium, and Matt has spent some time in Belgium, I did want to ask you guys, as you're starting, what is everyone about on their blondes? How are we about?
I'm about right there.
Tell me when you're nearly done there, but. This is definitely okay. Last quarter of the first beer question is what brought you both to. I don't want to say this location because are you originally from sort of the HRM area? You say you kind of started out near where Serpent Brewery was, but is that home or do you have a long journey that got you here?
Before you go and spill the beans,
are you going to make guesses?
Well, this is fun. This isn't fun for me. You can probably tell I'm not from the HRM area.
I'm shocked.
Thank you. But I did do a tiny little bit of research. I don't mean I didn't head straight and find out where you guys were from, but I did do a little bit of research. I listened to two or three of your podcasts on my little Bluetooth headphones while I was working the other day, and I was detecting, Ross. I thought, I wonder. If someone said, Ian, where are these guys from? I've been here now, 16, 17 years. I'm beginning to get the handle on accents out here on the East Coast. I thought, if Matt isn't a Cape Bretoner, then he's got a bit of Newfoundland about him. That's where I was heading at. But there again, I have heard a few people from the city that do happen to have a bit of a Cape Breton accent going on there. Mike is more difficult for me. But Matt, I was going to guess...
I am from Halifax, but I'm from Herring Cove, which is about 15 minutes out of the city. And the further you go on the Herring Cove Road, it turns into the Ketch Harbor Road, and then you get to Sambro. And Sambro, they kind of sound like Newfoundlanders anyway, and so I'm kind of halfway there. It's so funny. I was in Paris, and we were just staying in a hostel. This was like, I don't know, it was like 15 some odd years ago or whatever. And there was this Irish guy that kind of stopped. I was talking to some people, and he stopped me and said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Oh, I'm from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada." And he was like, "My God, you say words very similar to what I do. There's certain words you say that sound just like I do." And I was like, he was like say bar, and I was like, yeah, bar, and he was like, yeah, you sound like that. He's like, I didn't know you guys talked like that kind of thing. I didn't realize I had as thick of an accent that I did until I started working in like the corporate world, and then I had to go to Toronto all the time, like half a dozen times a year, and then I get up there and I'm walking around head office, talking to people, meeting people, and everything, and there's like, my God, I love your accent. And I was like, what accent? I talk like you guys do. And they're like, no, you don't. So, yeah. No, I am from Halifax, but on the outskirts. And, yeah, I get a bit of that East Coast accent.
Yeah. Mike?
Oh, yeah. I lived, so I was born in Newfoundland. But I grew up in Dartmouth, and I've been all around the country and stuff. So now I currently live in Kitch Harbor. So yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
It's Mike's Dartmouth accent that threw you off.
Oh man.
I've collected a few different dialect tricks along the way, I think.
I was gonna say you're like
yeah.
oh, what's the guy from the first Highlander movie? Christopher. That he studied accents forever.
Yes.
He had a dialect coach in order to sound like he was from everywhere. And then the one line he's got right at the beginning of the movie, where are you from? And he says, lots of different places. And it sounds so unlike anything you've ever heard in your life.
That's awesome, yeah.
Ian, where are you from?
Oh, I grew up. I was actually born in Essex, just east of London. But I very, very soon after that, I spent most of my formative years in Hertfordshire. I don't know if you're familiar with the layout of southern England, but it's about 20 or 30 miles north of London. And then I joined the Air Force, so the British Air Force. So I sort of moved around a lot over the next 23 years. Found myself in Canada during one of my tours, and that's how I picked up my my connection to Canada. But I've been here now since I retired from the Air Force for, like I say, since 2008. So, and people have said, really, you've been here that long, but you've retained your accent. And I'm like, I was thinking to myself, I don't think that's ever going to, I was 40 years old when I moved. I don't think I'm going to change my accent at this point in my life.
We made
I don't think so.
We made it a whole 25 minutes before the interviewers that we're talking to asked a question. So I think we're doing mostly okay. We're bringing you on our show. And I was trying really hard to say, okay, don't turn this into a back and forth. No, we're asking you guys the questions.
Exactly. I was going to wait.
Oh yeah, you got to wait for beer number 3. Speaking of beer number 2, you got to finish off that blend.
Too mad, are you, buddy?
I'm not finishing, fellas. I'm not going to finish it. That's not to say for one moment, and I'm not enjoying this. Absolutely, I am. It's a nice blonde. I wouldn't. You mentioned the dirty blonde, and I do. Whenever I'm going to go for a blonde ale, it invariably is that. There's just around the corner. I work for Michelin now, and just around the corner, just a couple of kilometres from me, is the Michelin Sports and Social Club, and they have the dirty blonde, I think, and the light as well, on draft in there.
Ooh.
And whenever I'm in there, not very often, but whenever I'm there, I'm always leaning towards it. It's such a good, regardless of its name and what you think of it. It's such a good blonde ale.
What's the drama with the name? What that came up before. So what's up with the dirty blonde name? What's the story with you two?
It had a bit of a muddy reception at first because a lot of people sort of said, hey, could this be a little bit of a misogynistic take on things?
Yeah.
And, hey, maybe beer drinking and beer producing is slightly a man-heavy thing, so this is not helping get you, shovel your way out of that.
Okay.
And I found myself certainly agreeing with it, saying, I myself personally am a little uncomfortable. Were I a brewery myself, I would never name a beer the Dirty Blonde because I would just be a little bit uncomfortable calling something that. Where I would feel a little...
Yeah,
and I think it was their advertising. It was their. It's not the name itself. The Dirty Blonde. It was the advertising.
Right.
Yeah, everyone. It's like everyone loves the Dirty Blonde from Dartmouth. Was their slogan on it, right? Now that being said, though, it was a very gender neutral statement.
Mm-hmm. That's true, and
literally yes.
Doesn't necessarily mean
yes.
Literally yes. However, it immediately conjures up locker talk because everyone knows who they've heard that sentence from.
And
that's fair.
And of course, if you happen to be a serving in a bar and waiting on tables during that time when that beer was introduced, can you imagine every single time a drunken man be there saying, "Oh, you know what I could do with babe? I love a dirty blonde," and the girls must have been just rolling their eyes, waiting for it every single time.
It would suck for servers and drinking at the restaurant for sure.
I totally agree with that. It takes me back to like the old Simpsons episode where like there's the model with the big boat or whatever, and it's like, "Do you come with the car?" or whatever, and it's like, and then the next person's like, "Do you come with the car?" and it's like, right?
And she giggles and says, "Oh, you," the same way every single time.
That's right.
Which,
And I'm very sure that waitresses were definitely feeling that, like, that pressure, that same joke of trying to be funny and all that stuff.
had
Right?
they included something like that, because that's where The Simpsons got away with the misogyny, the objectifying of a female model by a sports car, when the female model did the exact same line to every single thoughtless dude that came up and said the same line. It was giving a little bit of the power back to that character, back to the female, back to the model. So if the advertising for the Dirty Blonde had done the exact same thing, where everyone always says, oh, could I have a dirty, if that was the ad, imagine if that was the ad, could I have a dirty blonde, love, and then she just looks at you and goes, and if that was the ad, then I think that all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this women empowering blonde beer, maybe, but okay, that's, time travel at $1 million, I would totally go and do that. Big Spruce's Serial Killer. Mike, you've got the can there. You do me a favor and read off what's on there? Ian doesn't
Want me to read it?
Ian's not wearing his glasses.
Okay, I'll read this one. Matt, you can read the Malternate Reality. Okay. Serial Killer Oatmeal Stout. It's rich and moderately dry with dark chocolate and fresh roasted coffee flavors. Surprisingly easy to drink, this stout will convert even the most fearful of dark beer drinkers. And then it says that word I can't say. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Slancha.
Slancha. Yeah.
That's the Irish one, isn't it? Irish cheese?
Yeah. I'll tell you, though, I love this beer. I really do.
Yeah.
And I haven't had it in a while. It reminds me how much I like it. Like, I instantly, as soon as I had it, I'm so happy to be enjoying this one.
Yeah, I remember the first time I had this beer. It's been over a decade. Whenever they first launched it, they were pouring it at one of the beer fest down at the waterfront there and everything, right? And I remember the first time they poured that, I got to here, like literally it was like here, and I was like, I started smelling it, and I was just like, that smells like I walked into like an artisan coffee shop. So if you like coffee and you don't like this beer, I question whether you like coffee or not.
Dude, I get the chocolate over the coffee.
On the smell?
Do you?
Yeah, well, on the taste. Sorry, not the smell.
Ah, okay.
So I immediately get dark chocolate.
We're learning a lot about where the smell is often, it's completely different. It's like night and day from the taste. You say you smell a really fruity beer, and then when you get it, it's kind of a malt-forward thing, and the fruit's nowhere to be found. That's all in the nose. So like Matt's saying, if you got a coffee smell on it, sometimes it's more of a chocolate taste. The coffee's still in there somewhere, but I like getting both sides of that coin when you're drinking one.
Mike, I agree with when you drink it, the kind of the forward tasting of this beer is the chocolate, but what lingers is the coffee. That roastiness is what stays on your palate long after the beer is down into your stomach, kind of thing. But when you first get it, it's almost like that nice, like almost like a 60% dark chocolate type of thing, not too bitter, kind of thing, right? Yeah. That's where I put it, 60%.
If you go to the very first of our Instagram reels or whatever reels, TikTok reels, the first one will be a very weird one of me at the Big Spruce Brewery, awkwardly trying to do my very first YouTube video. Like, I'm not that guy, right?
I gotta look this up
in my life. And Andrea, my partner, she shot it. It was in the pouring rain. I just walked around, and everybody there was super sweet. Put on a Big Spruce hat and just started talking about the brewery like I did this for a living, right? And it was super fun. And but yeah, those people are really. It's the nicest brewery I've ever seen. Like, it's so cool.
I honeymooned in Cape Breton, and we drove past, and my wife, she likes beer not quite as much as me, and in fact, where my tastes are more towards, I like a good stout, like the Big Spruce there, but she likes the sours, so we don't always agree on anything, but as we were driving along, she said, oh, there's the Big Spruce Brewery, should we stop there? And I said, I'm not going to make you watch me enjoy the hell out of a brewery. It's our honeymoon, it's about us, not just about me, it's fine. So I didn't go, but it it's not been 10 years since I've had one, but it was 3 years, and it was one of the first beers that I did drink as part of this kind of going through all the beers. And in fact, it led to one of our first interviews when I decided to start talking to the breweries themselves, saying let's start having the conversations with the breweries as best as we can. And then that led Ian and I to say, do we know any brewers? And we went, but luckily, I went to university with the one of the main sales reps at Big Spruce, so I called him on the phone and I said, "Hey, Steven, do you want to come and talk to us for an hour about Big Spruce?" He says, "Hell yes!" And you mentioned trying this at a festival, and I bumped into my good friend Steven because he is almost always down at the Science of Beer exhibit
Discovery Center.
At the Discovery Center, which is happening coming up soon on April the 5th, I want to say.
Yeah.
So follow-up question, are we going to be seeing you guys at the Science of Beer this year?
So funny, I didn't even tell Matt this yet. I was talking with NS Brewers today. I sent the email out, like NS Craft Brewers folks. We'll see if they get back to us. Yeah. Because we did their other event last year, the one down at the waterfront. They comped tickets, and we went down and talked to all the brewers down there last year. So maybe we'll let you know. That's in development.
There's another one. There's Together We Brew.
That's the one we went to last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's coming up, and it's happening on a weekend that I am not available. So I hate that. So that just means that I have to double down and definitely go to Science of Beer because I enjoyed it so much last year. It not only just kind of wandering around, and I got to know I met a number of brewers that I hadn't spoken with before, but it was the talks when I went in, and there was 2 different lecture series, and you could go in and listen to things. And my friend.
No, I definitely want to go this year. Learn what SRMs are, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. They're not going to tell you that you don't know. This is the standard research method. Okay, what are you telling me here?
Yeah.
Regardless, the other Big Spruce story I've got is I went to a place one time and it had it. Like I had started talking to the guy, and we were talking about craft beer and what he had on tap, and he said, "Oh, hang on, I'll get you one from downstairs. We've got Big Spruce on tap, but we have it on a nitrous tap."
Oh.
And
no.
I stood there in complete silence, just shocked, until he came back and brought me a nitrous serial killer. I was in heaven that night.
That would be like so good. I remember before Greg Nash opened Unfiltered, he was going down. He was at the Heart and Thistle, which was where Gahan was, and then the Pickford in Black, like right on the waterfront there. And he made this stout, and he made the same stout, and you could choose whether you wanted it in CO2 or nitrous. And I was like, oh man, like nitro is like so much better for stout. It just changes everything about it, and it makes it so crushable. People think of it and they look at it as it's dark in color, and they're thinking like, oh, that's a meal, it's thick and whatever. It's like, you put that in nitro, I'll pound these things back and I won't get full because your belly's not expanding from all that CO2.
It's funny you should talk about this one isn't as heavy as it looks like it's going to be. When it's pouring out Midnight Black.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what 5.5% close to. Even though a Guinness is 4%, when you're drinking Guinness, I don't mean necessarily the draft flow, but the traditional stuff that comes in bottles is only 4.5 for Guinness. But that feels really rich. It feels quite heavy. This actually, even though it pours like it's going to be and looks like it's going to be, a lovely thick creamy head on it, and then I was just trying that. I've had this before as well, but again, it is a number of years since I've had it too. It's like and I know I was all over it the last time. It's easier to drink, if you know what I mean by easier, than I thought it was going to be. I knew it was going to be delicious. It hasn't done anything different there, but it's a little lighter than I thought it was going to be.
Definitely easy drinking.
Don't know if you ever had this. If we ever had this at the same time in the same place.
I've had this.
And you still have it, Ross.
Yeah.
You still haven't. That's right.
Not tonight. I'm drooling. I'm looking forward.
We forgot to tease Ross on how much fun we're having tasting all these delicious beers while he's just watching us. That must be torture.
No, I have patience. I have a 16-year-old and a 2-year-old. I have patience for days.
Holy smokes!
That's a crazy age difference.
You were right about this. If you mentioned if you like coffee and you like chocolate, well, it's a no-brainer. I love both of those things. Only this very week, my girlfriend and I, we just invested in our very first espresso machine because I'm now such a big fan of coffee now. She has been her whole life, but I've become such a huge fan of good coffee. And I thought, well, let's up my coffee game. But I've always got some dark chocolate knocking around the apartment as well, and I bite off chunks of that. And so if I was to chunk into this now and say, yeah, I don't think much of that, it would be a big surprise. And it's no surprise that I really, really love this beer. I love stouts anyway. I've drunk stouts.
The last plug for this one is I find with Big Spruce, nothing tastes artificial. I mean, however they brew it, like everything tastes genuine, and that's what I liked about pretty much almost all their beers I tried. I had the other night. They have a new Campfire Lager, I think it's called. I'll probably say the name wrong because I don't rate things very well. Campfire Lager or something. But man, it's a nice lager. Like it's a real light beer. It's a 4%, and I was just like halfway through it before I realized, man, this is a great beer. Like, these guys hit a lot of home runs.
I don't have the can in front of me because I'm a total failure as a podcasting host, beer drinker, and human being. But if I'm not mistaken, it says organic, certified organic around the top of the rim.
Yeah.
In talking to them, I think there's a couple of breweries that are organic, and they just kind of make sure that that's organic, and a couple that are. They're the ones who definitely advertise it. It's
organic doesn't really sell me on it, but not to be crude, but like it just doesn't really mean anything.
You're going to get a natural flavor. You're almost guaranteed a natural flavor.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I agree. I guess on both fronts there because realistically, I agree with that. You're going to get natural flavors. You're going to get good things, but also I agree with Mike about the organic stuff in the grocery store and all that doesn't sell me.
Baloney.
Well, it's not even just that.
Bologna on your beer and it's bologna in the grocery aisle.
I don't know if you guys ever watched.
We'll just leave it at that.
Like 15 years ago, Penn and Teller had this TV show called it was called Bullshit.
Yeah, dude, I remember that.
Loved it.
Yeah.
So great. And they did organics. And like organic food, organic whatever. And I watched this and my mind instantly changed and I was like, wow. They talked about how organic whatever can be bullshit because technically you can use pesticides, just organic ones, right? Arsenic is an organic pesticide. So it's like one of those things where it's like, okay.
I guess I like just feeling pretty ignorant about the entire concept of it, where if I see, this is certified organic on it, I'll just think, then I know that what they're going for.
It's funny though,
it's who they're selling to as well.
Frozen strawberries, because I make smoothies here in the house for our teenager all the time, and I swear to you, the frozen strawberries that say organic on them taste better than the ones that don't. It's both by President's Choice, and I don't know the rhyme or reason, different firms, different methods. In that case, the strawberries that are organic taste better. They just have a nice, fuller flavor from the freezer. Can't make any sense of it. Yeah.
It's a personal thing, though.
It's
an exploration.
You know what? Because on Penn and Teller's Bullshit, they cut the same banana and labeled one organic and one not, and people were like, the organic one tastes more like a banana. And I was like, it's the same banana.
You could be right. I don't know, man.
Fruits and vegetables.
Strawberries do wizardry on me, but most organic stuff, I'm over that.
Fruits and vegetables, I will accept things like that. I can't tell the difference between an organic banana and a non-organic banana, but for most of the time, a fruit and vegetable, you'll always say, it would be better if it's the organic style. But it's when you get further in the grocery store, that's when I start calling a Penn and Teller on that one, because you're looking at, here's this box of Cheerios, but it's organic. I'm like, hang on, it's Cheerios. Come on, I don't care if my Cheerios are organic or not. You want to bet?
You can't even get Kraft Dinner all the way there. If you look at the organic Kraft Dinner, it's like 97%. 3%. I'm like, what happened to that 3% that you just couldn't make?
The 3% is the arsenic they don't want to tell you about.
This is something I haven't really thought about at this level before, but I'm going to do my own scientific research on that next time I go shopping.
Oh, thank
Because
you,
I have
research,
never
please.
once in my life, when I've gone into Superstore, when the regular lettuce is $3.50 or $4 and the organic lettuce is right next to it at $5.50 and $6, I'm thinking, why the fuck would I go for this organic thing, which is $2 more than the other one? I'm sure they're going to taste exactly the same. No animals have been harmed. I'm pretty sure it I think
The cultivation of this lettuce.
gestation or the growing of this. So I think what I will do then, I have no idea how lettuces work, Ross. I've no idea. I'm not a biology teacher, but whatever. I'm going to buy both of them, and I'm going to sample the leaves off of them, and I'm going to fill you in the next time we have a podcast as
Please
to
do.
my thoughts on this.
You know what?
I think
When it comes to lettuce, my wife is hard in on the live lettuce, the ones that still have the roots and everything. Not because it tastes better, but it actually lasts longer.
Okay.
You can have
Is
it
that,
for 2
is that the
weeks.
Boston lettuce you mean?
Boston?
No,
I have no idea. It has roots on it. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's smaller, but they all look like they're just like still growing. And I want my lettuce to be fully formed, like a brain or a head. I don't want it to be still just this crappy little, really thin, weedy looking lettuce. I want it to be able to buy it and have it actually finished, rather than growing it myself like an IKEA furniture. You know, I want my food to be done when I'm picking it off the shelves. I don't have to incubate it to finish it off, is what I don't want. Same goes with eggs.
I can't think of a segue from incubated or gestated lettuce to our next beer, so I'll just awkwardly move on to the next one. Where our third
I'm
one is.
so sorry for you,
You know,
Ross.
you're rushing us, Ross. We're just having a lot of fun right now, man. I mean, I'm sorry, but we.
Do I need to down this?
I don't want it down.
I'm only trying for the sake of time. If everyone has lives, families, and other things to get back to.
We do,
My
but
family's not here.
Yeah, I have to be in bed at 10:30.
One of our guests a few weeks ago, I have been accused of drinking too fast. But sometimes when I say, the advertisement is it's an hour-long podcast, and sometimes we have 3 beers, and so I equate that to, okay, every 20 minutes, this one's got to be done. But we do our best.
May I ask briefly, chaps? Every 100 or so episodes, Ross had this wonderful idea that we were going to, on every 100th anniversary, we were going to take on the 100-shot challenge.
What?
Which we did 100 and something odd episodes ago on our 100th anniversary. Ross got some friends in, and I'm sure you're familiar with the template for it. I wasn't until it was explained to me that 100 shots, one every minute, for 100 minutes, at least 5% beer. Ross, bless him, and of course these.
They're beer shots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're beer shots.
Yeah, 100 shots of beer in 100 minutes.
Oh yeah,
You didn't
absolutely.
specify that. I thought you were going into.
I beg your pardon. No,
Absinthe. It's the absinthe challenge.
we couldn't still be here, but we took it on the first time about 100 episodes ago, and Ross had to bail after about 69. He said, "Podcast finished. I know it's only like 100, like 75 minutes, but I'm out of here," because he turned a very whiter shade of pale and disappeared to throw up in the toilet. They and then some, but these ones go on for clearly closer to 2 hours. Now we did it again, Ross, a few episodes ago. We had another, and we had a friend on board to help out. We sailed through it, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We absolutely blew this away. Which was surprising, because both of us are terrified about this thing before we were starting.
Scared, but we did learn the secret. I've learned the secret now to getting through an easy 100-shot challenge in 100 minutes. You keep time, but as long as you're having a spirited conversation about something that you feel really passionately about, and it happened totally accidentally. I forgot entirely what we were doing, and every now and then I saw Ian was saying, "Okay, now we drink," and I just slammed it down and kept fighting and arguing. And one of our other guests was trying to say that he liked the fact that the new Ghostbusters movie had the old stars in it, and I was arguing that you gotta leave nostalgia alone and craft new stories and with a new evolution of the story without dragging the corpses of the old actors into it. And I got so into this argument that I totally forgot how much beer I was drinking, and 100 shots was easy sauce.
So distract yourself. That's what you're saying.
That's probably the short answer, yeah.
And as a result, in fact, fellas, I'm going to big up a beer that Ross was the one that actually turned me on to this over 100 episodes, over maybe 2 years ago now. I wouldn't have gone for it because it is a lager. Now, I'm an ale drinker. I have been since my dad got me into it when I was about 4. So I've been drinking stouts, ESBs, British ales all my life, and to be honest, even though recently I've finally come around to the IPAs. Took me a long time, but I'm now on board with some of the better IPAs, especially double and triple IPAs. Some of them are really wonderful. But he said, "Have you tried this Toller Gold?" And I'm like, "Is that a lager? It's a lager. What do I want to drink lager for?" And then, oh man, was I wrong? It's such a easy, wonderfully malty.
Those guys make great beer. Burnside Brewing is unreal.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking wonderful. And as a result of that, that was the thing I took on, bang on 5% of both of these 100-shot challenges. And I think that's probably the biggest compliment I could pay that particular brew, because lagers typically leave me so gaseous and burpy, and I don't want to drink more than 2 or 3 pints of it, and I'm done. Of course, we're drinking about 8 in 40 minutes, and it's easy, so easy to drink.
Ian, this is a great plug, man. Like, I'm just gonna say, like, if you really want to support Nova Scotia breweries right now, and you're a Budweiser guy, man, Toller Gold is an instant go-to. It's such a nice beer, you might never go back.
And it's cheaper than most of the Bud and everything.
It is cheaper, yeah.
Absolutely. It's a no-brainer. People still walk out of the NSLCs with their 12 or the 24 cases of Coors or Buds, and you're thinking, and you want to stop them all and turn them around and say, just a second, man. I don't want to, I don't want to tell you what to do, but have you tried something else that is a Nova Scotian ale? You're not giving it to Anheuser-Busch. You're giving it to...
Ian, I have an idea for you. If you put on a vest with all the craft breweries that you want to represent and just hang out in the NSLC, and when somebody walks in, attack them, right? And just make sure they buy Nova Scotia beer before they leave. You'd be a hero. You'd be spoken about newspapers and history books.
Hoping for some jiu-jitsu.
So Ian, being from the UK, I gotta ask you, what's the closest or best beer that you gravitate towards if you want a little taste from home in Nova Scotia?
If it's a little taste of, oh, by the way, I mean, stouts. I'm gonna pick those off the shelves all the time. I've got the last 2 home brews I've done are both double oatmeal stouts. I've still got 50 odd bottles over there. So therefore, you can tell which way I lean. Stouts and porters and darker ales are traditionally what I will drink. It's only recently, like I say, that I've really started to come on board with the IPAs. My brother he's English just like me, but he's lived in Scotland for 20 odd years, and he loves his IPAs. And I'm looking forward to going back again to Edinburgh and spending a week or so with him, because now I can finally go back there and say, Brian, let's go and try some IPAs, man. Help me out here. But I've done since I've been here, in answer to your question is, because I do have that leaning towards the darker ales, Propeller's ESB to me and is just the go-to for the ESB that I find in Nova Scotia. There have been a couple, have there not, Ross, in the last year or so that we've tried. I'm saying ESB by Propeller, that's the bar that I'm setting my British-style ale at.
That's a great answer.
So you know what, Ian?
Yeah.
For some reason, the Propeller ESB at the Old Triangle, for some reason, tastes the best in the city.
Weird.
Why would that be?
I don't know what it is.
I've never had it there.
But the ESB at the Old Triangle always hit for me, always. But for also, like, if I want to go to kind of have a traditional kind of English type of ale or whatever, The Peculiar on hand pump or the ESB on hand pump at the Henry House was lights out good.
Just one place. I think Arcade Brewing had done a Peculiar.
Arcade's doing it now too, and they're
I need to
doing
get
a
in
really
there.
great job at it too.
Yeah, there are some good ESBs being brewed around, and there are some not good ESBs as well. We've tried several. I'm thinking
Here and
if
there.
they're trying to go for an English style bitter here, I don't know. Thanks for trying it, but you've got maybe there are better ones out there.
Yeah.
Do you know, I drank the ESB many times over. I never knew what the ESB stood for. Never even thought about it. But now I know.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's
I
good.
got great big blue
ESB.
herons because of sea
I
level.
never even thought about it.
How's everyone on their cereal code there? Are we ready to roll on?
Getting there.
By the way, Mike,
Yes.
we've had a discussion as well about what ESB stands for.
Yeah.
It's so easy to go for English style bitters. It's extra special bitter, isn't it?
Extra special bitter. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's so easy to fall into the English style bitter because that's what an awful lot of people assume that it means. And if you look it up online, you'll probably find people saying that's what it stands for, but it's not. It's extra special bitter, but
only on
it's
Untapped.
brewed in the English style of traditional bittering. So it's easy to make that mistake.
What's the English style of traditional bittering? If we could do it real quick. Sorry, Ross.
I'm not a brewer.
You got me.
I bet you Matt. You know Matt?
Whatever they do. And I will say this, since I've been here, if you'd have said to me before I came here, I'm going to flip that on its head, Ross. Looks like I feel for you, Ross, because I know you want a beer, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I can really do it. But what I'm going to say is...
That's not the reason that I'm rushing. You have to know that. That's not why I'm trying to rush through this.
Yeah.
I've come to appreciate here, acknowledge that, and I don't know if you guys know it, but Canadian beer is strong.
That was my question. The spirited question is what is 5%? Is 5% strong or is 5% middle?
I think it's mid. Yeah.
If I were to answer that question in the UK, I would say 5% is a strong beer.
Yeah.
Here, 5% seems to be a fairly standard alcoholic content for a beer.
Yeah.
If you go any lower than that, if you get to the 4%, it's a light beer. 4.5%, 5%, they're saying, it's kind of low to medium strength. That is not the case in the UK. Of course, you have ridiculously strength beers, but typically a pint of bitter in the UK, I'm drinking, and please don't laugh at this because this is, Matt, you're holding the fingers up. You're talking typically 3.5 to 4% for a bitter.
Yep.
But what it manages to do, it might sacrifice a little bit in alcoholic content, but it does not sacrifice in anything in the flavour and the ease which you can set and drink these beers. It's quite the opposite. They're so flavoursome, they're so well made because they've been brewing them for hundreds of years and they know what to do.
No, honestly, I love it because the fact is that you can go and you could have like 3 of them and still drive home, kind of thing, right? Like,
we have this argument on a weekly basis, though, because I always say, "Oh, Ian, check this one out. It's only a 5.3," and he said, "Come on, don't say only," and it almost sounds like I'm shaming him.
We do like our strong beers here. I mean, traditionally 5%. That being said, though,
recently
the IPA is a British beer. It's traditionally a British beer. But that's what we've gotten used to in the East Coast of Canada, because that 1820 IPA, where, and if anyone doesn't know, it's India Pale Ale. The reason it's called India is literally the Brits brewed it in a way with high alcohol, high hop content, so it could last the journey before there was preservatives. So it needed to be 6%, 6.5% with lots of hops, so it could make the journey, to get it all the way down to India. And I mean, that's why Keats is basically blasphemy when it comes to, IPAs and in the beer world.
It's a lager.
It's a lager.
It's not an IPA.
Lager Pilsner for sure.
Let's stretch it, yeah.
But they've been brewing that for 140, 150 years, have they not?
200 years. 200 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Alexander Keats, they've been brewing it for basically 200 years, yeah. And it used to taste more, traditional before, but at some point, like we had Prohibition come in, and it kind of disappeared, right? Like there was things that changed, and when Prohibition kind of came back, it hit Canada first, but then we have these archaic laws that came about because of Prohibition. So we got alcohol back before the U.S., but they brought in these archaic laws in terms of, in order to bring it back sooner, and then they just didn't change them, right? So we've had these 100-year-old laws that are just need to be heavily updated. But when beer came back, it was basically they wanted bland, easy drinking beers that weren't what they were before, right? So that's kind of how we got the traditional 4 to 5%. Everything's kind of lagered, kind of pilsnery type of thing. Yeah.
One of we touched on Total Gold, another beer that Burnside makes. So we're talking about high alcohol beers. That's one of my new personal favorites. Is that Happy Place one? Have you guys tried that? It's the 8.5% double IPA.
It's ready to go.
In the fridge. It's ready to go.
Perfect beer. It's so good for a double IPA. I absolutely love it. I don't like a lot of high alcohol beers, believe it or not. Like usually when they're put on me, I'm like, not crazy about them, but this is one that just knocks it out of the park.
I love them.
Yeah, I know you love them, dude.
I love them.
Yeah.
There you go. Good Robot double IPA. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So
that was a good one.
So
see, I'm a big fan of Belgian beers, and I mean, we have some fantastic breweries here in Nova Scotia, and that's mostly what I drink. But if I can get anything that's not in Nova Scotia, I generally gravitate towards Quebec or Belgian beers. I do like some German beers. Germany, mostly because it's a nostalgic thing. I was 20 years old. I had my 20th birthday in Germany, and that's where I first fell in love with craft beer. So I came back, and Tobin can attest to this, because I came back, and I turned 20 in 2005. I came back being exposed to beer in Europe, and I was showing up to like us being 20 years old playing beer pong and all this other stuff, and I was showing up with craft beer, and they were all making fun of me, and they were all what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you bringing a stout? Why are you bringing a red ale? Like all these things. It's real beer, exactly. Yeah. But like I've been drinking craft beers. I've been drinking craft beer for 20 years. 20 years now, and which is weird for me to think because I'm not 40 yet. So
I want to know where you're going, where it's easier to find a Quebec or a Belgian craft beer than it is to find a Nova Scotia craft beer.
No, I buy those here. So my wife's from Quebec City.
Okay.
So we go to Quebec 2, 3, 4 times a year, and there's a really great place called Le Monde de Bière in Quebec City, and it's one of my favorite places in the world because anything you learn about me is I love beer and I love hot sauce. I love spicy stuff. And this place has 450 different types of Quebec beer, and they sell hot sauces. So
next time I go back, that'll be one of the places I go. Then.
You gotta go. Le Monde de Bière. Shout out to them. They have so many beers, and Quebec and Belgium has a very similar style. Like if you go out, it's a major label beer, but it's still a good one. But it's a staple. But if you get La Fin du Monde, like you will never have the smoothest drinking 9% beer in your life. I'm telling you, it will taste like the blonde that you had tonight, but it's 9%. It's so good.
Have you tried the Propeller Leviathan?
Yes.
That's a great beer, dude. Yeah.
Really good.
That beer has no business being as easy to drink as it is.
No, I agree with you.
It should be fire water, and we just cruised right through it saying, no, this has got to be the wrong can. Something's gone wrong here. Yeah. We have been so deliciously surprised because early on, when exploring craft beer, we thought IPAs, sour, I don't really like, it's all dank and hoppy. And then, try this, it's a double IPA. And you think, listen, I don't like the single IPA. How am I going to like it if it's double? That makes no sense. And suddenly it's easier to drink. And then someone says, try a triple IPA. And I said, this is just bizarro world. What's going on? And they get easier and easier and more fun to drink the more you seem to multiply the IPA part.
The malt, they just keep doubling up on the malt each time, which makes it more balanced. Which is why, funny enough, that's why this thing is so. You're drinking it like, this is an IPA. Are you sure about that? But they do put it right up front, but in the name, the Malternate. They're saying if you want an IPA, but you want a lot more malt in it, it might be your boy. And we've had it.
You know what? I don't say this very, very often in public because I love all of our craft breweries in Nova Scotia.
And we want to be friends with everybody. So
we want to be friends with everybody.
Yeah.
They are like, we have so many great breweries, and there's so many breweries that make really good, like, particular beers that I really like, and I go to them and everything. That being said, this beer is probably my favorite beer that Nova Scotia makes.
It's a top beer for me. 100%.
Realistically, there's only one beer that I would say that I liked more than this, and the one beer, and that you can't get anymore. That beer that I liked does not exist anymore, and I would rate that beer in my top 5 favorite beers I've ever had.
Okay.
I've had the Westy 12 many times. I've traveled Europe. I've done pub crawls. I've gone across the country. I've tried beers. Rogue's Roost IPA. Literally, I'm not. You can make fun of me all you want. Anyone wants, you can make fun of me. When that place changed hands, and they did not make their actual IPA, I sat there when they changed ownership. I took a drink of their new IPA, and I had shed one tear. And my wife was like, "Are you crying right now?" And I was like, "Yes, because I know I'll never taste that beer again." And it was literally my top 5 favorite beers of all time.
Oh no!
I would rank that literally one of the top 5 greatest beers in the world.
I might have more tears for you.
You might have more tears for me.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But Ian's going to mention our favorite that is no longer available, and that is the Black and Tackle Russian Imperial Stout that was out of Bad Apple Brewing up in... Where the hell was that based out of?
What brewing?
That was Bad Apple was in.
Bad Apple.
It was in.
It's like
What's it called? They're in the valley there.
Middle Valley there, somewhere Middleton or Middle. Somerset, that was it. Yeah, because you could get, they had their sweaters that said "straight out of Somerset," and but
and it just so happens that Ross's wife's probably her best friend. Is that fair to say, Ross? The daughter of the guy that's the master brewer, the owner of the place.
Yeah.
And Ross. Well, we both waxed lyrical about this Russian Imperial Stout for years, ever since they threw it on in my local establishment again, just up the road at Michelin. I tried this thing for the first time and thought, what is this? Now, bearing in mind, I just told you my love of stouts. I thought, what is this? This is the best. And of course, Bad Apple closes down. And I spoke to Jeff, the owner of Bad Apple Brewery, at work, because he happened to work at Michelin. And I said to him, and maybe a couple of years ago, I said to him, Jeff, there's no chance that you might just happen to have a couple of any of these rogue ones lying around from the... He said, I've been asked that by so many people, mate. He said, if I ever came across one, he said, I'd let you know. What should happen about maybe 6 or 8 months later is he passes me and said, you'll never guess what. He said, I found one. I've no idea what state it's in. I've no idea how old it is, but I'm thinking it was put aside because maybe it was out of weight. So this glorious can of black gold arrived, and Ross, you happened to find one. Where did you find? I forget where you found yours.
I think Kelsey just brought us one, or did I still? I honestly don't remember. It's been so long.
Well, this was a full 2 or 3 years after the brewery had closed down, so we thought that it was no opportunity to find out.
Closet inventory. Yeah, this stuff was under the bed.
Yeah.
Can you guys figure out who made the recipe for the beer?
It was Jeff Saunders. It was one of his. He sold. Yeah. In fact, he sold all his recipes, theoretically, to the Annapolis Brewing Company, which is why they're producing the box cutter right now, which was Bad
cool.
Apple's
Okay,
big seller. So they actually purchased all of them.
Cool.
Huh.
But I fully
You know
agree
what?
with you on what North Brewing is doing, because I find we keep going back there, and it's not just that they're producing really great beers, they're producing such variety, and there's interesting stuff, and new
Yeah.
ones all the time, and I just went and got another couple, because here's the long story of the Malternate Reality. We first heard about it on your podcast. Because Todd Beal is a friend of ours. He's the web administrator of the Maritime Craft Beer Facebook group, and I first learned of him because he was on your show. You were talking to Todd Beal. He's one of your guests, and one of your questions was, Todd, what's your beer? What's your beer right now? What's your go-to favorite beer? And he said Malternate Reality, and I'm sitting there going, feverishly writing down, what is this beer that I need to learn about this? And we eventually found our way to getting it, and we both said, I don't know, IPA, let's see how this goes. And it blew our socks off entirely. We were so impressed with it. And then when you said you wanted to drink it tonight, I thought, oh, that's fantastic. Look it up. Okay, let's see. And I'm looking at all my local LCs, and it's not there. And so I said, okay, nslc.ca, let's just, do you have some alternate reality? He said, here's the can. I said, it is sold out in your store. I said, we'll find the nearest one. How about Bedford? And I said, I am in the Annapolis Valley. Can you do a little bit better than Bedford? And then they went, nope. And there's a bunch down at some random place on the South Shore. And I said, why is this so hard to
I
get?
learned that it's not their favorite beer to sell because it's their most expensive beer to make.
And I wondered that.
I ran into a guy at Westside one time. He was the sales manager or whatever, and I talked to him about North for a minute, and that's what he was telling me, because I was like, why isn't your best beer in Westside, right, which was the Malternate Reality? They had Pleasant Disposition.
Because it's only our opinion.
And they had their Let's Go. Well, it's my opinion, yeah, but that's what he said to me. Yeah.
We learned a long time ago that we have unpopular opinions because all the beers that we like aren't big sellers. Or you go to the LC and everything that's available there, I think, I don't like any of these, and I'll just, I'll walk away with my serial killer and usually several books.
Malternate's one of their biggest sellers, though, man. For real.
So yeah, that's the part where Matt, I got to get you to read the description for Malternate Reality if you could, and then oh man, you're not gonna like what I do next.
May I just finish off that little anecdote right there, if I may? Yes, we did crack those last 2 cans of the Black and Tackle Russian Imperial Stout live on the podcast probably about 120 episodes ago. Mm-hmm. And yes, I did shed a little tear at the time, because this was every single sip you're thinking, this is so delicious, and yet it's almost gone. And there it is, it's gone, and you'll never have that feeling ever again. It's quite sad.
So speaking of crying, I just got a text. So my cousin Tim is watching us right now, and my cousin Tim's been on the show a couple times and everything. So I posted the link, so he's listening. He just sent me a text, and he said that he said as an adult he only at least recollects crying 2 times in his life, and that is when he found out about the electric Mustang SUV, and when he found out that Lorne, who is the brewmaster who made the IPA at Groves Roost, burnt the recipe for the IPA. So I'll tell you, I told him this. I told him the story. So this is a quick story. Lorne is the brewmaster at Rogues. I built a bit of a relationship. In 2008, I was going there like 4 times a year. I worked 4 times a year, 4 times a week. Okay. I worked across the street. I was going over there. All the time after work and eating, and like still to this day, they have the best fries, the best lobster roll, best beer. It was my favorite place probably ever. Anyway, built a relationship with them. They got sold. I actually just happened to run into the brewmaster, Lorne, at Superstore one time and said, "Hey man, what's going on? Like it's sold, the recipe's changed, whatever." And he told me this whole thing about how Dalhousie offered him a job, about being starting a brew school there and all this stuff anyway. And he was like, yeah. He's like, so Murphy's Group is who bought them out. And he's told me, he was like, I gave them all the recipes for all the other beers. All the other beers are good. They had a great red. They had one of the best raspberry ales you could ever get. But the IPA was the most, right? And he knew he had something special. But that's what they wanted. because they knew everyone knew that was great. And he said, I wouldn't give them that recipe. He goes, they wanted it. He goes, I wouldn't give it. He goes, I burnt the recipe. I burned it up. He was like, so the only place that exists is right here. He's like, they'll never get it. And I'm like, so when they did come out with the Rogue's Roost IPA, I bought it and tried the can, and I was just like, this sucks. Right? So that is the only time. So Tim just texted me and said, tell that story. He's like, I've only cried twice, and that was the Electric Mustang and the fact that recipe is gone.
Well, that helps me, and now I wish that I'd tried this Rogue's Roost IPA, because I fully agree on that stupid Electric Mustang. But anyway, the Malternate Reality, we got to get a description in on this one.
Yeah, so the Malternate Reality, there's not much of a description in here, but I mean, it does say there's a couple I don't know if you want to kind of buzzwords on there. It's juicy, hazy, tropical. I agree with all those. That's really great. They don't really have a description on the beer though, so they just they have the ingredients of water, malted barley, wheat, oats, hops, yeast. So there's not really much in there in terms of an actual description of it. But I mean, look at that can, pretty trippy.
That's gorgeous. I love it. I don't remember the color of it. Is it more of an amber color, or is it still kind of IPA-ish?
It's really hazy. My glass isn't great to show it.
Here, I'll try it.
It's like a candle holder. Okay, so I couldn't remember, because I remember it tasting much more in the malt forward side of things, but I couldn't remember if it kind of looked a bit more like a maltier beer, like you'd expect something of
there's a lot of malt on it. It really offers that malt forward, but you get that hop, kind of nice lingering hop on the end.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic, North, everything they do is amazing. Right?
So here's the tearful moment. I'll let you guys get through a few mouthfuls of that one. The tail end of my story of finding these cans, these elusive cans, I finally gave up, and I said, well, wait a minute, I'm going into Dartmouth because my family live over there, so I'll just head up in that direction. And we happen to be driving right, and so I said, oh yeah, because I know they've got a location out in Tantallon, and I stopped by that one. But they've also got home is in Dartmouth. And I looked at it, well, it's on Portland Street. Okay, we're heading by that way. So we stop in, and I walk in. I've not been to the Portland Street location before, and I look through the fridge. Oh, there's some new ones. Grab all the new ones on my way out the door, and oh, good, there's the Malternate Reality. Good, I've been looking for that. And I go up to the counter, and I'm talking to the young lady working at the counter. And so take this with a grain of salt, and I'm not sure, I'm probably spreading rumors and terrible things, but the word that I got at the counter, I said, hey, these were really hard to find. I can't find them in several of the liquor stores in a certain area. There's still some available in a couple of liquor stores, but not anywhere near me, where they're all sold out. Do you know if it's just a shipping problem, or are they coming back? Is it just an inventory thing? And she said, no, I think they're talking about phasing it out. And they're going to stop having that one. And then she says,
we're going to have to get angry, boys.
They're going to replace it with the Dishoom.
No,
not the same.
And my mind immediately went, they are not the same beer. That is not the same at all, because we just tried that the other week. I think we were comparing Dishoom to
I did last night. It was 3 nights ago.
It's all right. It's fine, but it's not the same.
Right.
So
we gotta fight them on that.
It's entirely possible that their front end staff is not quite prepared to talk to someone who has absolutely dedicated his mind and body to the consumption of craft beer, and just throwing things out there. So it could be an inventory problem in a shipping. Just oops, we didn't have as much, and we're going to make a new batch, and we didn't. We thought that last batch would last longer. Because there's like 46 cans in one of the LCs down on the South Shore, but all of the ones up to in Unitas and Wolfville and Kentville, all of them, they're just out. So
the only thing that the Shoom is better about is the can is really cool.
It is really cool.
It's tricky as hell. But there's no real competition with the taste of it. Rebecca just cracked the can, by the way, in the background. She hasn't had it for a little bit. I have, and I've already said how much I love this. She actually said, and her face did this. She went, "Oh, it's so weedy." Not weedy as in thin, It smells a bit.
Smells like marijuana.
I bet it smells like marijuana. A bit
Yeah,
skunky.
but clown.
And I
Matt,
don't
when we were
know.
with Early Pete, you said the same thing about another North beer. Remember that?
Yeah, so I mean, cannabis and hops are cousins. They're cousin plants, right? So it's pretty normal. I find Northern Brewer hop smells very much like cannabis. In the same sense that also that they only use the female hop for making beer. The male is simply used for reproductive, like, it kind of the what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever terminology used for plants for reproducing things.
Okay.
The pollination or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So the male is not used in the beer making process, only the female. So it's the same thing for cannabis. When you get THC and all that, it's just the female.
Oh, I wonder if that. Well, because I know the propensity for beers to start going towards in that flavor has actually led to a descriptive word that we didn't understand at first. But you see it on some of the, especially the IPA, the more hop flavored ones, where you see, oh, this IPA is especially, and I love it, dank.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't clue into it at first, but now every time I read that, I thought, no, this is gonna be a weed tasting beer, man.
Yeah. I like it. I love it. I
disappointed.
really love it.
Yeah,
If
I mean,
if they're doing away with, does that
Not
sound
confirmed.
like?
Not confirmed whatsoever. It's just a thing that was passively told me when I said it was hard to find.
It may explain quite obviously, because this thing has been sat up there on the shelves next to the Pleasant Disposition now for quite some time. And recently, the Pleasant Disposition, the little sloth sitting up there, we tried these. We both said, nice cans, they look kind of similar. If they're from North, we like North Brewing's offerings more often than not. And the Pleasant Disposition was just, it was okay, but nothing to write home about. Whereas this one, when we were going through our We Don't Love IPA phase, this was the alternative, and literally it's telling us what we want to hear. It's an IPA, but a maltier version. And it really hit the mark for me. If they're now saying, yeah, we're going to move that away now, so because that's not...
Yeah.
It will be hugely disappointing.
It keeps happening to us because we like things that are unpopular.
Well, and personally, I like a hazy beer, an unfiltered beer. I find they just pack more flavor, more punch. A really big Canadian brand of beer that's still kind of small but big is Steam Whistle. And, that Steam Whistle makes Steam Whistle. You go to Toronto, they're right downtown. They have the train station there. You can go on the brewery tours. They make one beer, and that is it.
I had a pint there. It's a cool spot.
It's a cool spot, but if you go on their tour at Steam Whistle, you can get the unfiltered Steam Whistle, and it is significantly better.
Really?
Significantly better. Like, it lights up. I remember my sister she was up there with her softball team, and they were posting that they were going on the tour on Steam Whistle, and I just commented right quick. I was like, "Get the unfiltered one," and they tried both, and they were like, "Wow, you were right." Lights out, significantly better. Couldn't believe how much better it was.
And then they all got kidney stones.
But
is that just because the sales pitch has always told us, we get it all the time from American beer companies, is beer is supposed to be clear, and it's supposed to be cold, and it's supposed to be crisp. 3 words that make no sense when you're describing a tasty liquid.
That's a hangover from Prohibition. That is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Clean, crisp, clear. I mean, some of those beers you want to have, right? You go to Europe, you can get certain beers that are like that. Like the Germans like the clean, crisp, clear. So do the Czechs. They like that. Like the Pilsner came from the town of Pilsen. Lager literally means to lagern, which means to store in German. And so if you go to, when you get the big steins and stuff so I went to Cologne, where Kolsch comes from. I've been to Cologne twice, and you can only call the beer Kolsch technically according to German law, if it's made within the old walls of Cologne. And it's a very crisp, clean beer. And everyone associates with Germany the big steins, like the half a liter steins, whatever. But in Cologne, in Kolsch, it's 200 ml glasses. It's clean, crisp, and clear, and they expect you to just down it. So they actually, if you go to these places, these beer gardens, they run up and down. It almost looks like they're carrying like cases of poker chips, because they have these little tiny like glasses of 200 ml glasses that they're inside inside these carriers. And the only way they will stop serving you beer is if you take your coaster and put it on top of the glass. If your glass is empty and your beer's on the coaster's on the bottom, they are replacing your beer. They literally take the glass away, fill it with a new one. They put a little check on your coaster, and however many checks you've had on the coaster is how many beers you had. And that's how they know how to charge you, right?
This is a little selling point here for. We could take a note out of the Germans the way they do their beer fests, because paying $60 and $70 for 7 or 8 4-ounce glasses on the waterfront, to me ain't a beer fest.
No.
Sample, and you've got 2 hours, by the way. We'll give you a little bit of live music, and there's some hamburgers over there if you want to. But to me, that's not a beer fest. That is an exploitation of and I hate to call it what it is. We're being mugged here with our beer fests. I hate to say it. Even though we're going to go along to the Discovery Centre next month, which is quite different. I understand that, because I'm going to learn some science around it, Ross. I think the beer fest here, certainly in Nova Scotia, nothing's selling me. When I see these things saying it's only $60 or $70 and you get 2 or 3 hours. If you want the VIP ticket, you can pay another another $30 for it. I'm thinking, yeah, but you're not giving me any beer. I might get 2 or 3 pints out of this for about $70. What is the point? What's my selling point here? In Germany and in Europe as a whole, there is definitely more of a come in, pay your $20 or $30. As long as you're not falling over and spewing all over the place, you're welcome to drink as much as you like within reason, boys.
Yeah,
I'll leave you the task of single-handedly fixing Canada's population density problem, because that is effectively what is going to do it. We are too far apart. We've got too much space. If you try to,
that's a good point too, Ross. Yeah. So you said you had something tough for us after this pint. What was it?
Oh, the tearjerker was just my news gossip that potentially the Malternate Reality might be going away, and it's just gossip and it's not confirmed in any way, shape, or form. But
may I introduce a game to play, because I love playing games. We play a lot of games in our show and ask questions at the end. Can I introduce a game?
Oh my, I've already allowed you to get away with 2 questions and now a game? Sure, all right, let's hear it.
All right.
Before you go there, I did do a little bit, and I thought, well, they obviously asked their little 10 questions. I ain't going to bother with 10 questions. I'm not turning the tackles on them. But I quickly wrote down 3 that come to mind. So I'm going to ask you.
Oh, you do your 3 questions first, dude. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
All right, carry on. Am I going now?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, okay. Clearly, you've had some slightly more high-profile guests than we have on your show over the couple of years. I think we can point towards Darren Harvey as being probably the highest-profile guest we've had, and you boys might look and say, "No, I don't know who that is." But that might be the highest-profile.
I love Darren Harvey, but continue. Yes.
All right. And what about Jerome the Gravedigger? Now, not everyone's had a Gravedigger on their show. That's right, isn't it? But,
I love that, though. I would love to have a Gravedigger on.
Clearly, you've had some very high-profile guests on. Kudos to you; it's quite impressive. But and it would be so easy to say, yes, of course, that our most exciting guest was a very major politician. But who would you say was the most surprising guest you had in a couple of years? The one that you were pleasantly surprised that you had a lot of fun with.
Go ahead.
Fun with?
We're gonna probably be very different. So go ahead, Tobin.
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah.
A surprise. I really love the editor of The Coast. Julie. Julie, my gosh, it was terrible. Only because she told a story that was so personal and so beautiful, and like how she overcame it. It wasn't truly like I was, like ecstatic that she told it. It was just like, I felt so moved by her story, and I didn't see it coming. I thought we were going to talk about feminism, but we actually ended up talking about alcoholism, right? And it was her story was so real, man. Like it was just like holy shit. Like I couldn't believe it. And we had some stops and starts in that one, and we added it out of respect for her. But it still came out, I thought, a beautiful edit, and it's one of my proudest episodes because it tells a story that's very true to a human being. And when Matt and I did this, like really, all we wanted to do, man, was like just talk to humans for real, like like really get their essence. And I mean, you guys, I mean, I've actually watched some of your show as well, and one thing I know that you guys are about is bringing people together despite indifference, and that's something that Matt and I happen to be about as well. And that means, like, yeah, we're pissed right now that Trump's kind of messing up Canada, and all these things upset us, and politically we can be divided, but together we can really be, so much more if we just kind of, when we get to these smaller indifferences and just say, okay, I don't understand that, but I still like you. Shit like that. And you guys are good with that. And I always kind of vet people even before we go on their shows. And when Matt, I think I started this and Matt finished the conversation. I started on TikTok and Matt continued to talk to you guys on Instagram. So I do the TikTok and Matt does the Instagram, as weird as that is. And yeah, so like, but yeah, you guys are awesome guys, and I think you have the same kind of thing of bringing people together as we do, which I love, and that's why Julie, my favorite episode. That was way too long. I'm so sorry, but yeah, yeah, I got like, it's just the beers make it slow me down here. Yeah.
Back quickly.
So for me, I'm gonna go with just because you talked about well-known names, prominent names. That being said, there's somebody who we have on our top 5 most listened to episodes who is not a well-known name, and that's Ryan Alford. For me, that was a big one for me because, I mean, I know the guy, and I had to do some convincing to get him to come on the show. He just had a really great story, one that I thought would resonate. And I think I was what I liked about it was like I knew from the get-go. The minute I said come on the show, I was like, this is gonna be an episode, and it is going to be an episode that's gonna be successful. And it was. It's our top 5. I think it's number 4 most downloaded episode. And what I really liked about it is we released that episode, and during that week. He wrote me like we released on Tuesday. He wrote me on like Friday or Saturday, and just basically said, you know what, it's been a really emotional week. He said there's been a lot of people who've actually like written to me on Facebook, on social media, whatever, because we tag the people into it and everything, so they find who our guests are. And he just said that I've had a lot of people write to me saying that thank you for telling your story. It's helped me with the problem I'm going through, and it made him feel good. It made other people we don't know made feel really good. So yeah, Oates, that was the biggest. I was confident it was going to be good. I was shocked at how good it was and the impact it made on people and Ryan himself. And now he wants to do public speaking himself because of this episode.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was a cool episode. He's a sweet guy.
Yeah.
Ross, I won't ask the other 2 yet because they're very, very quick. Go on, what were you going to say? You've got something to say there.
I had 2 questions, just together questions as well. One of which was, do you find, you guys are mostly HRM based, we kind of are Valley based, and we have a hard time, we talk to we've talked to all of the Valley brewers so far, and we're trying to talk to some of the Halifax brewers, and we find there's a little bit of a divide, hard to kind of wedge your way in there. Do you find that guests are easier to get from a HRM perspective, or do you branch out, do you feel you branch out, or would you like to branch out more to the rest of Nova Scotia?
Yeah, sure. So Matt and I are like 50-50 on guests, I think, pretty well when you look at the episodes. So it's like where we succeed is authenticity. We don't look for guests unless we feel like they're our vibe or kind of like our message. Like, like, yeah, it's a beer show, but it's not really a beer show. We talk about beer for 4 minutes, maybe 2, and then we talk about whatever, right? And that's what we wanted the show to be. So it's like, I guess we don't get. We don't get all the guests we want. We have people that Matt and I are hammering away at right now. Every day we are texting each other back and forth saying, "Oh, we're trying to get them, and we're so close. We're so close."
Yeah.
And we keep them under wraps until they actually happen. But yeah, I think be persistent. If I was giving friendly advice, be authentic. Like, you really want to talk to somebody about their brewery, about their craft, or whatever you want to talk about. We've sent letters to people where we never expected a response, where they appreciated them that much that they got back to us like same day. Steve Murphy, for instance, was same day.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right? Same day. Like, and it wasn't within an hour that we got a response, but like we took our time with, why do we want to have Steve Murphy on our show? We didn't just ask him to come on the show, right? So we put some substance in our email, right? And we did our research. We figured out who the agent was and shit like that. But yeah, that's it. Like, that's just just really try and if you got a good synergy with somebody, it's super easy. Like, you know what I mean? It's not hard. We're not aggressive guys. We're not out there to hurt nobody, right? So if you're
I usually say the same thing whenever I approach someone. I said, this is in no way gotcha journalism. I've been courting with
we
a
say the exact same thing.
few people that are like, I'm not trying to catch you in on something. It's just, I want to have a conversation. And
except for that fucking North company, why'd you get rid of Malternate Reality?
Oh my God, yeah, we got to give them their business, absolutely.
Russian journalism as a team, right? See what's up here. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's a couple things have done really well. I mean, I kind of pride myself in my networking ability to kind of reach out to people, not just for the podcast, for just everyday life. LinkedIn's been great for us. It's been so good. Like, I used to hate LinkedIn. And then we started doing this, and I started using LinkedIn for the podcast more than anything, and it's gotten us like a good chunk of our guests, and they like what we're doing there, because LinkedIn, like, I don't know, I'll say LinkedIn's boring as hell, and we're not boring, and I think we add a little spice to LinkedIn.
Well, okay, I will definitely look into that a bit more, because I currently hate LinkedIn with a fiery passion.
I was with you right there.
Yeah. No, I like LinkedIn. I do like LinkedIn for the big reason that it's also where your employer lives, so people can't be super fucking angry about whatever tangent they want to speed off.
Take a second account, really. I mean, it's Angie, secretary for
like, I find it's more tame. Like, social media is so unhinged these days, So I don't mind LinkedIn for the tamer waters information and stuff. Although LinkedIn's actually getting quite unhinged itself in the last year or so. It's even LinkedIn has succumbed to the abyss of where social media is now, and that's kind of sad. But I feel like it was one that was kind of floating above.
Mike, you had a game for us. Is that what's going on?
Not really. I just had a stupid idea.
Also, Ian had 2 questions too.
Oh, they're very, very quick. I notice you always ask really, really in-depth and profound questions that you want to get to the bottom of. And so I'll ask you now, what's your favorite cheese?
What?
What's your favorite cheese?
Cheese? Oh.
All
right.
You go ahead.
And while you're thinking about that, I've only got one more, and this is going to divide. This divides the whole of the UK. It has been doing for years, for 7, maybe 60 years now. Are you a? Well, shall I ask the over? Yeah. Who's your favourite Bond?
Favorite Bond?
Oh, I love that.
Connery.
Through and through.
Mike?
You know what, man? Like, I actually rewatched the Bond films just like last year, and Connery was where I had the most fun. I hate to just ride with Matt. I just got to provide a little context and say, like, like the Connery films are freaking hilarious in so
They were
many
great.
ways that the other movies just don't measure up. Like they're terrible in so many ways, but they're equally like, he's slapping women, he's saying crazy shit. Like,
Yeah.
everything is wrong about those initial Bond films. They're racist. They're
misogynistic. Ross, knowing your affinity for the dirty blonde, are you a Connery or a kind of what's his name, the later one? By the way, I am Connery through and through, but I did have a little thing because he got so much stick for this. George Lazenby's on Her Majesty's Secret Service is so good.
That's a comedy though. It's like not even a Bond film. Like
it's so good.
You know what?
You know me well enough. You should know my Bond. You should know which Bond I would choose, just based on how I do just about everything. Who is my favorite Bond?
I never talked to you. I don't know if I've ever asked you that question, Ross. I don't ever recalling. I kind of feel that you might be a Timothy Dalton man.
You know me so well.
Is that right?
It is.
I would have guessed. You know what? I don't even know you that well. I would have guessed that. That being said, I will say, as much as I'm a through and through Connery guy, I am also a child of the '90s, and GoldenEye has a special place in my heart.
Just gonna say it with you. I grew up like
I wanted more from Pierce, and I felt Tim played the role very comfortably, and I liked the movies. It was all ridiculous the whole way through, but I feel
he was our first Bond. Like for Matt and I, like that was the first Bond we saw. That I know I saw.
He wore the suit with no awkwardness, but I don't know.
And I don't even know if the movie did as well as the video game, the N64 game, where Pierce Brosnan's face was actually in the video game. You could play GoldenEye for years.
Oh, you got to put some air quotes around actually in the video game. Both polygons of Pierce Brosnan's face was in the video game.
Two things I can tell you note from that. One, none of us went for Roger Moore. And that's it. Bless him. He's a lovely fella, but he was never Bond. And Daniel Craig, who kind of gave elements of original Bond back again. He did. Probably he might be my second favorite. I think Craig has done a really good job.
He's done a great job. Yep. He's done a great job.
So
Ian,
probably nostalgia factor.
So Ian, I don't know if I can pick. I don't know if I can pick one cheese, but I got three.
Okay.
It's a lot of cheese.
So my top three favorite cheese, Emmental, Swiss Emmental.
A little tasteless.
Yeah, but I like the linger, the lingering flavor at the end of it.
Okay.
I like obviously cheese curds, like a real Quebec cheese curds. Lights out, love it. And
what cheese?
What
cheese are they using? What cheese are they using?
They do it. They're just Quebec cheese curds are the best. They're so good.
All right, then.
Mozzarella.
And then my third one is halloumi. I freaking love halloumi.
I lived in Cyprus for 3 years. I lived on that stuff while I was there. It's so, and we can get it all over the place here in various areas. In Avery's sell it all the time in the superstores. It's so good. And I'm assuming, Matt, that you stick it on the grill for a little bit.
Yes.
Just to harden it off the edges a little bit.
Okay.
So good.
Texture. Quick. You got to do the grilled halloumi with a curried chickpeas. Mix it all together. I'm telling you, amazing.
Mediterranean. That sounds really good. Mediterranean or Middle Eastern. That sounds wonderful.
That's what I was thinking. One final question from me. The afternoon pint is usually just one single pint in the afternoon part of the show. How does it feel to get through 3 pints over the course of a conversation and show?
Slightly better. I'm swearing a little more easily now, so that's great.
Listen, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I had 2 pre-pints leading up to this, so I'm through 5.
I can tell just by how much
we're going to call you for show number 300 then.
Ready to go. Yeah.
I went to North to get the Malternate Reality, and I was like, well, I'm going to get a 4-pack, right? So, yeah, I had their Oatmeal Stout, and I had their Lawrencetown.
And he did 9 lines of cocaine.
I don't know.
That's how you fit in the rest. We've got the Oatmeal Stout lined up for coming up soon.
Ross, I gotta ask you a question, man. So what's this play that you're in?
It's called The Minutes. It's done by the Wolfville Theater Collective. It's going to be right here in Wolfville by Acadia University.
Was that like a community theater?
Yeah, one of many in this area, actually. And
Cool.
Who's The Minutes by? It's by, is that the one that's by Tracy Betts? Am I thinking of someone else? I don't remember.
I don't know. I have a crazy, huge community theater background.
Yeah, he does.
Then you gotta come and live up here where there's...
Yeah.
We
Directing and producing and all that stuff. Yeah. So.
Oh, cool.
That's how Ian and I met.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Oh,
Yeah. So I heard you say that. So I have to ask him later, right? So yeah. But yeah. No. I wanted to learn how to get into film, and I had no idea how to do it. But then I saw an ad for a community theater actor role, so that's how I started. Yeah. And ended up not liking acting at all, and got right into the direct and production side of it. I probably produced like 50 or more plays, like
Wow, okay.
some of them like Atlantic Fringe Festival and shit like that. But like I was never, I don't know. So I had a very weird engagement. I took a break from it now, probably for like 10 years. But I'll get back into it one day.
We talk about this all the time. I hate producing. I want to be up on stage. I want to be in the limelight. I don't actually do any work. Maybe that explains the successes of Afternoon Pint as opposed to the successes or lack thereof from Drink and S Dry. We just want to perform. We don't care about the
I
rest of it.
love talking. I love doing this, but like when it comes to acting, is nerve-wracking, dude. And like to me, I mean, it's great when you have a great show going and you do it so many nights and it becomes a machine and it's starting to work and you're getting that character nailed. And I get all that, but like no, directing to me is the funnest thing in the world. Like, yeah,
That's a good time.
yeah.
and you know what, Wolfville, we got to give a shout out to Church because that is probably one of the most beautiful breweries in this province.
Yeah. Great brewery.
I think we really have them there a few years ago.
If they could only convert all churches that are closing down to breweries, that would be fantastic.
Oh man, we'd have way more than 65, wouldn't we?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
170 new Nova Scotia breweries opened up overnight. Thank you, United Church.
I'm going to head on out. It's been an absolute pleasure, fellas. I think I'll be in touch with you. I think so. I think this is not going to be the last time that I speak with you, fellas. It's been great fun. Thank you very much. I'm heading out. Ross, I'll see you soon.
That's bizarrely ominous. That's way more ominous than what he usually says. Anyway, I just want to thank Matt and Mike of Afternoon Pint for being here and talking to Ian and I for way longer than our usual episode, but you listened to it all, so whatever. And of course, Ian for being here, and to North Brewing, to Big Spruce Brewing, and Smashing with from Great Roads Brewing, Rob over there at Great Roads, for brewing the beers that we had tonight. We are here every week, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/drinknsdry. You can find our podcast in the podcasty place. You can find Afternoon Pint on their podcast, but also at their website, which is not in front of me right now.
AfternoonPint.com.
Okay, I thought it was going to be something rather easy like that. I probably just sort of given it a whirl and tried it out. But if you look up Afternoon Pint, you're going to find these guys and a lot of their episodes as well. So definitely give them a listen. Thanks, guys, for joining us tonight and for taking your time.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Ian. This was a lot of fun. Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely.